Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hi everyone, welcome back once again. Agenda number 2. And with agenda number 2, we are going to start the drilling of examiner report. Means examiner report analysis. Students, the purpose of examiner report analysis is that we need to identify what's the actual expectation of the examiner or examining team. Do remember, always attempt the question or always draft your answer according to the examiner expectation and do the practice with that expectation. With this agenda, we will cover examiner general comments from point number 1 to point number 6. Come on. This is the SBR examiner report published after September 23 exam. The contents include 4 parts. General comments that reflect all over the SBR questions. General comments specifically to the question 1. And the specific comments of question 1, each requirement, auto company. With this examiner report, we specifically highlight or discuss the points, what examiner expectation, and some more points about the complaints of the examiner. Now let's start. Number one is the general comments that reflect all over the SBR exam. Point number one is particular about time management. All you people know that the golden rule of the time management. 3 hours total you have, 180 minutes. Have to attempt 100 marks. So for each mark you have 1.8 minutes. For example, if you are attempting 10 marks question, you have 10 marks multiplied by 1.8, 18 minutes. You have 18 minutes to complete your task. Ideally, whatever the requirement you have read, according to the requirement, you have to complete your answer within 18 minutes. There are 2 possibilities. Number 1, if the possibility number 1, 18 minutes has gone, but you haven't completed your answer. So that means you are not committed with the time management. You will lose the marks for the next another question. Second possibility, don't override. Always attempt the question according to the examiner answer. According to the examiner requirement. If you override or overdraft the things, which is not the requirement of the question, you will not be able to gain any extra marks. In fact, you will lose other marks with other question. So point number 1, candidates should convert mark allocation, each requirement, into minutes. Use this as guide how long to spend on their answer. Those who write more than is needed, particular part of question, will not earn extra marks. Control your emotions. Always write according to the requirement. Don't overthink, don't overwrite. They instead risk of losing potential to earn marks in other questions through poor time management. That is the first point for all SBR exam questions. Number 2, second important point. What should be the quality of the drafting or writing? Quality of the drafting and writing includes 3 components. Number one, number one, your draft answer must be relevant according to the examiner requirement. Relevant. Number two, application based answer. Well structured answer means application based answer. Application based means first you have to refer the principle of the syllabus. Principle means if the question about accounting standard, put the reference of accounting standard with your own wordings, not necessarily exactly the accounting standard wordings. Own wordings, number one. Number two, connect the things with the case. So reference of principle, either accounting standard, either ethics, either performance measurement, either current development, either conceptual framework, reference of principle and connect with case. This is called well-structured answer. Number one, relevant. Number two, structure, organized answer. Organized. Well-structured means organized answer. Number three, your words must be conservative word count. Means conservative word count means with limited words that should be precise and complete. Conservative word count quality will develop once you practice the things. Complete answer, concise sentences. If your answer is concise but not complete, that's not conservative. Your answer is complete but too much text. It's not conservative. Limited text with completeness. That's called conservative word count. Don't worry, you will be able to get this ability. You will be able to do this with the practice of the question. So well structured, relevant and conservative word count. That is about point number 2 and 3. You can read it. Now, the general comments related to question number 1. Number 1, question number 1 format has become changed. You must be well aware. Sample 1, sample 2 available. Previously, specimen 1 and 2 already published. And you can also refer the question from Kaplan or the Study Hub. So well aware, well practiced with the pre-populated spreadsheet functions. If you wanted to know what exactly changed, you can find my video from the YouTube SBR changes. I hope you have already watched it. If you haven't watched it, you can refer from my YouTube channel. Point number 4. Examiner has introduced the pre-populated spreadsheet and some calculation aspects. But don't ignore that examiner will not examine the discussion-based requirements. Even we have read the requirement with the agenda number 1 point. We have already read the requirement. 12 to 13 marks is about the theoretical aspects. Still, so discussion-based is still relevant. Point number 5, with the pre-populated spreadsheet option, how to present their workings. 2 points you always remember. Avoiding inputting unreferenced numbers. Avoid to incorporate unreferenced numbers. And the better approach is to label your working. Make a proper labeled and reference of your working. What does that mean? For example, this is the question. And this is the spreadsheet option that you need to perform. So this is the drafted consolidated balance sheet. First thing is that examiner particularly mention the placement of the workings. For example, if you wanted to make us some working number one, it's about goodwill impairment. Let's suppose goodwill impairment. Let's suppose. And you have identified the -5. So, what you should do, this is a consolidated balance sheet. And these are the columns 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, there are 3 adjustments in total. Number one is goodwill impairment. Goodwill impairment. And you need to incorporate goodwill impairment. You need to mention here working one. And here mention, or you can select your cell and connect the cell with this values -5. So after this, the marker will be able to find out your numbers. This is called labeled working. This is working one, then E working two, working three, and let's suppose there are 3 adjustments. And final G point is corrected. Or adjusted consolidated financial position. This is the final column. So we will cover this point once we will solve the question. Corrected. This one is the corrected. That is the point. So this is the total point that you need to cover here. That's what examiner mentioned here. How to present working. Avoid inputting unreferenced numbers and better approach to present these numbers separately within the working in the spreadsheet below the pre-populated data, and then enter the working total with the adjustments. This skill would be equal within the workplace and therefore applied in the exam questions. Last, point number 6, very important. Examiner particularly says that we have observed with the previous exam that candidates frequently invest or spend too much time on question 1. This often means that question 4 is rushed, whatever the question 4 in terms of sequence you are attempting. The temptation to overrun question 1 is to gain some of more challenging marks is likely to be at the cost of losing potential straightforward marks in the final question. So time management is vital. Good spreadsheet technique may help candidates work more efficiently. Sir, how to handle this point 6? Only one solution. One solution with 2 parts. Number 1, simulate the past exam question as max as possible. Simulate means attempt the question with exam conditions. Lock the timer, start it. Attempt the question with exam condition. Not practicing, but practice with exam condition. That's called exam simulation as maximum. Number 1. Number 2, mocks. At least 2 to 3 mocks you need to attempt. Because in examination hall, you don't need to attempt only one question. So if you are going to attempt mock exams, so you will be in a position to evaluate your situation, that if I am handling the 4 questions, what's the situation now? So before the exam, at least 2 mocks you need to attempt. So you will be able to cover this point number 6. So students, agenda number 2, conclusive points. Examiner comment. Number 1, for SBR exam, time management, 1.8 minutes for each mark. So number 2, high marks formula, conservative word count, well structured answer, that's knowledge and application, and relevant. SBR question 1, 30 marks question including discussion requirement. Presentation of the working, you have to make sure that your working not include any unreferenced number. Avoid unreferenced numbers. And better approach for labeled working below the pre-populated data and working refer with the adjustments. Stick with the time management. 30 marks you have for question 1, 30 marks, you have 54 minutes. You have to attempt within the 54 minutes. Ideally, we will discuss this point later. Ideally, your time must be split in 2 components for each requirement, for each questions. 20% of your time must be for planning, 80% time must be for execution. So this is examiner recommendation. We will discuss this point later with the examiner report. 20% time for planning, 80% for execution. If you are executing or enter into war without planning, you will not able to execute or win the war. So this is what about agenda number 2. Thank you very much. Wait for the another video. I hope that you are getting the valuable insights. Make sure you have to watch all series of videos. Thank you. Take care a lot. Assalamu alaikum.